Nikki Babatunde and Tosin Adefuye are like sisters to me, and I am honored to have them share their story on the show. They lost their dad nearly 18 years ago while they were still in high school and college, a life-altering loss that would shape both of their grief journeys and the women they would become. In this episode, Nikki and Tosin reflect on the pressures that often accompany the loss of a parent. They candidly discuss how grief has evolved over the years and the ways they continue to honor their father's legacy. Through heartfelt memories and honest reflections, they also share the importance of expressing your needs while grieving and allowing others the opportunity to show up for you in meaningful ways. Their story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest acts, a call, a text, a check-in, can make all the difference to someone carrying loss. Now take a deep breath, and let's get into the conversation. All right. Welcome, sisters, to the There's Grace for That podcast. I am your host, Damisi, and I am very, very excited to have you on the podcast today. I just love y'all. And I feel very privileged that we are doing this interview. Unfortunately, you all are no strangers to grief and loss. And even recently, you had a very, very close loss in your family. So I just appreciate you being open and sharing your experience, not with just me, but with the people who will be listening to this podcast. So as we usually do, we're going to start with a little bit of a lighter question, and then we'll go into the deeper questions. But just wanted to express my appreciation and love for you both. All right, so question number one. Our sibling structures are very similar. They're actually the same. So there are two older sisters, then there's a brother, then there's a youngest sister. And I know with my family, me and my siblings have a whole bunch of insiders, a whole bunch of jokes, a whole bunch of memories that only the four of us share. And I wanted to know if you all wouldn't mind letting us into the Adefuye sibling insiders, and if you each could share a story, a memory, an insider, a joke of the four of you. So I don't know who wants to go first. Nikki, you got it.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there's four of us. I'm the oldest, and then Tosin's after me, and then we have a brother, of course, and then we have our other sister, Miracle. Um, you asked about a story that came to my mind. This one, I think Tosin will remember it too, but there was this one morning that usually we get up before our parents, and the parents always say, "Leave us alone. When we come out, we come out. Just leave, like let us sleep or whatever." We're like, "Okay, cool." And so this particular day, I think Miracle, that's my younger sister, and my brother had gotten up before we did.
Oh,
And we got,
okay.
so they were up, whatever they were doing, we have no idea. And so I woke up and I came out and I see my little sister and my brother are painting the walls. They're painting the walls like white. How they got paint, I have no idea. Why they thought about that, I have no idea. And so I'm like, as the oldest, I'm like, why do y'all guys have paint? Like, who told y'all to paint? Like, what is happening? Okay, let's try to get this like cleaned up, before mom and dad find out. Let's try to clean it up. And it Tosin comes out and she's like, what are you guys doing? Like, we're all kind of freaking out, we're gonna get in trouble for this. And then sure enough, my dad just happens to casually walk out. And then he's like, Deji, when did you become a painter? And then my brother's like, I don't know, around 10:30-ish. And we're just like, oh my God, like what? He's being sarcastic. Like, why did you answer? Oh my God. And my dad just like looked at him and he just shook his head and he just like walked off. And like the thing is really funny because my brother, it's at that time, he did not understand sarcasm at all. He was very like black and white, cut dry. Like he was just super serious. So that made it even more funnier.
Yeah.
And the fact that Miracle was all in with him and her toes are all white. It was just a hot mess. And of course, my dad, because I'm the oldest, he's always like, Nikki, you're not watching the kids? What's wrong with you? Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, I didn't even know what was happening. So I just remember that because it was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. That is an epic story. And Deji, I need to give him something for that because I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I was like, what?
That is the best. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, like how old Like, if you had to guess, how old was Deji at that time?
Let me see. Miracle was probably like what, 3, 4. So Deja had to be about like give or
Nine,
take 9,
10.
10,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Toast, what you got for us?
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of ones that involve all four of us.
I feel like Tosin wants to be told which story she should tell.
No.
Oh no,
Or do you
I'm
remember
trying.
the "To God Be the Glory," the rolling credits?
Okay, well that one is just me and you.
No, you could say Merkel was there. Everyone was really there, but
Technically everyone was there, but
yeah,
everyone was not paying attention. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Okay, well, since we're talking about funerals, okay, sure. I can tell that one. That's why my struggle was thinking about ones that involved all
All of
four
us.
of us.
Yeah.
Because I can think about ones that's just like, just two or maybe even three. Okay, yeah. So one of the inside jokes is to God be the glory. Um, basically, we were in church one Sabbath morning, and you know how like they have announcements, and then they might have like a special announcement from someone in the congregation. So this was a special announcement, and this man went up there, and he was like, I just want to thank my church family for supporting me, through this hard time that I went through, as difficult as my mom passed away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, we're all feeling heartfelt, like, oh, this man's mom passed away. I was like, I didn't even know his mom passed away. I was like, oh, sorry about that. So we're just sitting there listening to him. And he was like, actually, I have something to play for everyone. So, we're like waiting for the media team to play the whatever it is. So I don't even remember the music, but like as soon as it started, like the music that it started with, me, Nikki, and like three of our friends, like we were like there's already a giggle, but we were like, all right, like keep it in, keep it in. So then it starts showing like, pictures of his mom and pictures of him and his mom. The photo choices were questionable, but we were like, it's whatever, it's a memories thing. And then the music started getting a little bit extreme, and we come to find out it's his mom. She was, I guess, like an opera singer or some kind of singer, and she was one singing on the track. And so that's why the music was a little bit whatever. So we were kind of like, okay, like whatever. Yeah, like we were trying to hold it in, like, okay, like just like the mom, she passed away, it's all good. So then, finally, the video wraps up, and we're getting to like the final black screen. So we're thinking like, it's just gonna end. No, 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 no. There were end credits. The first end credit. It was like director, Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior. And it was like producer, God the Father. And it just like continued on with the different. And then I think like he put like, like I don't know, the editor, he put his own name. And that's where it said like the singer was his mom. That's what, we found that out. And then the final black screen was to God be the glory. And then we like I started coughing because I couldn't keep it in anymore. And I exited the sanctuary because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to hell for this. I need to exit. I don't know what happened after that because it was too much. It was too much. Yeah. Yeah.
She said, I'm not going to help this.
I think what made it even more funnier too was like it reminded me of like a horrible Nollywood movie, and that was what made it even more funnier. I was just like, this really can't. Like this is it's all cultures that do this, not just us. Okay, like this is the standard. Okay, I got it. That's what made it even more funny.
That is a hilarious, hilarious story. Thank y'all. Oh my gosh, I needed that. I had to mute myself because I was busting out laughing. Wonderful. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for sharing your sibling insiders with us. All right, well, let's transition into the topic of grief and loss. Um, I know, so we didn't get close until like after y'all's dad passed, so we definitely didn't have like conversations about it around that time. And then, I still feel like there's like a lot of information that I don't know. But just to give our audience context, if you could both just describe your experience with grief, describe your journey with grief, describe like, um, yeah, your journey with grief, with losing your dad. And if you want to include, any other experience as well, you can do that too.
Am I going first again? I'm just kidding.
Nikki, you go first, sis.
Um,
She said you the oldest, so you gotta go first.
I'm trying to. Well, I could say my journey with grief is kind of an interesting one. I guess I would say. Um, I think the first time I actually like really honestly felt some kind of like grief was when I was 11. I guess I was 11, no 9 or 10 when we found out about I mean you may know him, Andrew's brother Stephen, when he passed, because we had just seen him that summer and we were close and we were playing, and we even had a joke like, oh, I was gonna get married to Stephen. Like that's how like we were like close, and all that stuff. So hearing like somebody my age could pass, that was really a reality check for me. Like, wow, people like, so like kids can die. Like really, like someone my age could pass like that. That really kind of made me very like nervous. You know what I mean? Like I was very, and it made me sad, obviously, because he was gone, but also made me like think like, man, any of us could go. Like that's scary. And I started thinking like, man, I have to like really be careful of what I say and be careful of just what I do, because like you just never know. And it just kind of, I guess that part of the grief part was just me like not knowing when it could happen. And then fast forward to when my dad passed, it was a little bit different. I had just went to college, so I was in school when he got sick. So I didn't even know he was sick. I didn't know anything. They didn't tell me anything. I just got a phone call, I think the Friday night, and my mom called me, and I was just gonna call me Happy Sabbath, like blah blah blah. And she's like, "Hey, if you can." Well, actually, she had called me Thursday night. Let me reverse. She called me Thursday night. And she said, "Hey, your dad is not feeling good. If you can come this weekend to visit him, that'd be great." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll come for sure. I'm gonna come this weekend. Like, I'll try to find a ride Saturday after church, but I'll head over there. Like, he's never really sick like that. Like, what's going on? So I was gonna try to figure myself out to get there. So then I got a call Friday night, and my mom's like, "Hey, can you come like now?" And I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean like now? It's like 8:30 at night. Like, okay, I'll get there. So I bummed a ride with my friend, drove an hour. I don't know how. He said yes. So we drove over to the hospital, and he had already passed. So no one told me. When I got to the hospital, they were like, we're just waiting for you before we wheeled his body to the morgue. We're just waiting for you because you're the last one I haven't seen him. So that kind of hit me immediately. Like I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I didn't get a chance to even know he was sick. I didn't had nothing. So that was really hard for me, and especially being the oldest, it was also hard because I also felt like I had to be the strong one. Like I'm like, okay, well now I have all these other siblings. Like I gotta make sure they're okay. I gotta make sure my mom is okay. People are gonna be at the house and people are gonna call us. Like I have to make sure like we're good. And so I vividly remember, when something initially happens, it kind of like that didn't really happen. Like it's just like it just goes over your head. You don't ever think about it. You're like, okay, whatever, is what it is. But then I think that night I was trying to sleep and I just could not sleep. Like, every time I closed my eyes, it was just like tears and I couldn't sleep. And I was just like, I can't. And I hadn't cried before that. I was just like, still in shock. And it wasn't the next morning when someone came, then I just busted into tears and I was just crying. And then after that, it was just more like a numb feeling, like, just going through the motions. And going back to school after that Monday, I went back to school because I had to finish. It was Thanksgiving break. I had finals coming. I can't miss classes. So going back that Monday, I was just out of it really. People were asking me like, "Hey, what happened? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just get through the day. Get through each day. I have to go back home for the funeral." So it didn't really hit me until the wake keeping. When you see them in the casket, it's like, wow, like they're gone. Like they're not sleeping. They're like gone. And that's when it really hit me like, wow, like he's not coming back. And so I think my mind with grief is more like I try to just push it away, like, oh, okay, like it's not gonna bother me. Like I just put that away. Like I'm not gonna be sad right now. I can be sad later. And I think that's what people need to like, even I need to tell myself that all the time. It's like you can't tell yourself to hold off on it. Like you need to go through that process. So it's okay to be sad and it's okay to be depressed. I think I was thinking like I couldn't be depressed because that'd be kind of weak of me, or that would be a sign of like I'm not handling well, or people think I'm crazy because I'm so depressed. Like I should just be pushing through because my dad wanted me to push through. And I know he would want me to push through too, but I just like, okay, I got to focus on school. I got to focus, I got to focus. I got to focus. And I didn't think it hit me way later. The grief kind of didn't really hit me till like maybe after I graduated college. And I started like working, and I'm like, I'm just sad. And I don't know why I am sad. Like, I don't know why I'm always feeling kind of down. Like, I'm happy, but, I just have this lingering sadness, and I don't know what it is. And then I was like reading my Bible, and I started thinking about it. And I was like, it's because I miss my dad. Like he's supposed to be here for all these moments, and he's not here. I never really got to say goodbye. I feel guilty. I took it for granted, and all these things and all these emotions. So it was then when I started to like really like, okay, write these thoughts down and really like let it come out. And it's still like a process. Like, when I had my kids and I got married, of course, those moments pop up. And it's really funny now when people like, I have kids now and I explain them, like explaining death and stuff to them. It's kind of interesting how they think of it. Cause I told them about my dad and they're like, so you're saying our grandpa's dead? And I'm like, well, yes, in so many words. Yes. Thank you for being so kind. I was like, sure. Um, but they're like all interested, like, okay, what do you look like? What is he doing? And I have to tell, show them pictures and stuff. And we went to his burial site and, they're like, oh, that's where he's at. So he's sleeping. So we're standing on him. I'm like, relax. Yes, but relax. Like, just put a flower in the thing and it's just, okay, it's okay. That kind of thing. So it just kind of reteaching me how to like think of death in different, perspectives. And so I would say my journey with grief is just a little bit wonky, I guess, but my advice would be just like take it day by day, honestly. Like, let yourself be sad, let yourself get through it. Obviously, you're not gonna like wallow in your sadness, but like,
Yeah.
if you need to like feel you can't talk, write it down. And that's what I did. I wrote everything down. Like I have a diary, I have like so many journals in my house. Like I just write stuff down because I'm not really good at talking my feelings out. So I
Okay.
find that I do better when I write it down. So
Okay.
that's my little expose. That's what to say.
I feel like you covered a lot in that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And there's a lot there, from how you found out to how you coped to, it coming up all these years later, and then you even passing on the legacy of your dad to your children. So shout out to you for even like making a point to do that and, explaining it to them. And I know that it can't be easy when they talk about it in that way or just their kid way.
Mhm.
But I think that can also bring like lightness to the situation. And it's just awesome that they're being told about their grandfather. And I have a follow-up for you though, because you said that you kind of pushed it away for a while and the processing maybe didn't fully come until after you graduated. So as a family, were you all talking about it after it happened and processing it together, or were y'all just doing that in different ways?
That's a good question. I feel like so like during college I was kind of in and out. So like we kind of processed it together, but I think we all kind of processed it differently. Yeah, I think we're all kind of processing it on our own in different ways.
Okay.
Honestly, like we were talking, we would share our little memories,
Mm-hmm.
but we all process it totally different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah. And the fact that you were in different places
mm-hmm.
physically as well, I'm sure also contributes to that. Okay. Tosin, are you ready to share about your journey?
Yeah. So, with me and finding out that my dad's situation, um, yeah. So I remember it as Obama getting elected, and my dad being like, I don't know, he was excited. He was like, "Yes, a black man has won," and watching the acceptance and everything, and that I didn't believe that was Tuesday because you elect him on Tuesday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Wednesday, my dad was flying. And then Thursday, on my way to leave to go to school, I was like, okay, Daddy, I'll see you later. And then he was like, bye, Tosin. And I was like, that's a little bit weird. Because my dad never said bye. He always said like, see you later or see you next time, something like that. He didn't say bye. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird, but I'm also kind of late, so I'm just gonna go to school. And then Thursday being at school, and then my mom saying that like my dad had to go in from his appointment to the hospital, and that we're gonna sleep at my aunt's house. And I was like, "Is everything okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, everything's fine. Like he's stable, blah blah blah." And I was like, "All right, cool." So then Friday I have in school. Friday afternoon, did I talk to my mom? I don't know if I talked to my mom Friday afternoon or not. But Friday evening, I was sitting with my aunt after dinner, and she got a call from my mom, and I saw her answer the phone, and then I just saw her face like drop. And then she tried to like change it back because she knew she was facing me, but I was like, my dad passed away. I was like, okay, got it. I need to get Miracle and Daisy to wake up because we're going to the hospital. I was like, okay, cool. Like I don't know why I decided that's what had happened, but yeah. So when we got to the hospital, I didn't realize all the situation then, but like I know it now. That basically, he had coded several times, and my mom had was like hoping that they would be able to revive him and then he would stabilize. And once it had happened, like I guess a few times, she was like, "I guess I have to call the kids because I don't know that he is going to stabilize." And so that's when she called us. Um, yeah. So I remember going to the, I guess he was in the ICU. Um, and people around were like in the room. And I don't know if they were praying and crying or I'm not really sure. They were just like making noises. I remember them just making sounds and me just being focused on my dad. Um, and I held his hand and it was cold. And I was like, oh, my dad's hands are never cold. They're always warm. Um, so I was like, oh, okay. And so I was just like, well, I love you, daddy. I just like said that like to him or like was I don't know if I leaned in or not, but as I was holding his hand, I said that and I just left the room because I was just like, yeah, it's over. Um, yeah. So then I was just waiting for my mom to tell them to, stop everything. And I just waited in the waiting room. I was also waiting for Nikki to get there too, because she wasn't there yet. So then, yeah, I think all of that was probably shock and adrenaline, just kind of like what needs to happen, what is happening. And I'm also more of a thinker than a feeler. So I was just like, all right, this is okay, got it. Okay, got it. This is okay, got okay, all right. So it really wasn't until the next day that he'd saying, I think it was one of our uncles who came, and that's when I first cried about it. Um, on that next day. After that, I just I was upset that I was going to have to continue like moving on in this life journey without my dad. Like I was already upset about that. And I was upset in particular because I was like, if my dad was here, all these people wouldn't be doing all the stupid stuff in our house. That's what I was thinking. But I was like, they're also here, like, to mourn with us, but I was getting irritated. People were doing strange things, but little strange things to me. And so I was like, yeah, if my dad were here, this wouldn't be happening. So like that was upsetting to me. Um, and I think somewhere along the lines, I was like, yeah, I really want Taco Bell. And I ended up going to Taco Bell. And in going to Taco Bell, I closed the door because I wasn't really all processing well. I closed the door and I walked away from the car, but my thumb was still on the car door. And then I was like, oh. So then I opened the door and then I closed the door and I went to Taco Bell, ordered my food, came home, and after I came home, I was like, it's kind of swelling. And I was like, I'm gonna eat my Crunchwrap Supreme. Um, and I'm gonna drink my Sprite and I don't care about whatever. So I mean I can tell that like I was kind of like numbed to pain because my thumb was definitely swelling and it swelled so much that like they thought that my thumb might be broken. My nail eventually did fall off. I had to put my hand in a sling for some time because it needed to be like elevated. There was like a whole thing. And yeah, I think that situation happening kind of forced me to process me being sad. Um, because it like was amplifying the pain that I was in. Um, yeah. And like Nikki was saying, it was also like the end of school test. Well, not end of school, end of like a grading period testing time for me. So on Monday, I also went back to school. They were my the aunts and uncles in the house were like, "Oh, Tristan, like you should stay home." And I was like, "I have things to do." And also, I can't stay home with you guys anymore. It's already been 2 days. I gotta go. So I went to school and I did all the stuff. I know the counselor like called me to her office and she was like, Tristan, like, why are you here? And I was just like, we have testing. Like, where else would I be? I was actually very confused at her question. I understand it now. Yeah. So yeah, I know that once the wakekeeping and funeral came, um, I didn't really care to like see my dad's body. I know that like they want us to take pictures of their dad's body. I was like, but this isn't my dad. Like he's not here anymore. I don't really. Why am I? Okay, why are we doing this? I didn't understand why it's important for some people to do certain things, but then like for me, it wasn't. I didn't need it. Uh, yeah, and I think like some adults thought that like, oh, you do need this, but I was like, no, I really don't need that. Um, yeah, so I kind of wish more adults understood that, everyone's a little bit different. Moving on. Afterwards, uh, I didn't really think that I had to take care of everyone, but like I knew that there was stuff that needed to get done. And so I was just like doing and not really processing everything until eventually I kind of like shut down too. And I can only do so much. Yeah. I think I remember like breaking down in my room and just crying because my dad passed away in November. And I think like in February, uh, Deji and my mom got so sick with the flu that they went to the emergency room. And then Miracle also got sick. And I was at home with her while they went to the hospital, and Nikki was at school. And Miracle had fallen asleep, and so I was in my room finally, and I was just crying because I was like, "What if my mom and my brother pass away too? Like, what am I going to do then? I'm just here with Miracle." Uh, yeah. So I think there were moments that happened where I just was kind of forced to, "Hey, let's process this. Let's. It's okay to be sad. Um, it's okay to not know what's going on." And just kind of like be struggling in the moment because this is like I don't think this was supposed to be this way. We're supposed to lose people. Um, I think we kind of were built to live forever, and so this grief process is like so scary and frustrating and foreign, and yeah, to us. Um, so yeah, to your question about us grieving as a family, I don't think that we groups as a family intentionally, but if it just happened that like things lined up or like one person's going through something and another person's going through something and like we did talk about it, then like that happened a couple of times. But it wasn't like a whole family intentionality thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you, Tose. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I love what you said about you wish that some adults knew that, everyone processes things differently, everyone needs different things. I know that in a time of grief, people just want to help and they think they know how to help, but I think you said you were 15 at the time. Okay, so when you're past a certain age, you might know what you need. You're not 5 years old at that point. So I think it's a message that people can take to, you might have an inclination of what someone needs, but checking with them, listening to them, believing them, and even if it ends up that it's something that they don't need or didn't need, that's something that they'll process through at the time, and not for an outsider to come and decide. So thank you for telling us that. Um, and I wanted to ask you both, either one can answer or both of y'all can answer, but how would you have handled the situation or done things differently if you were in your mother's shoes? I know that's a big one. Or maybe I can ask it in a different way. What do you wish that your mom would have done?
Well, I mean, it's the thing that we tell her even now that like if you're sick, just tell us from the beginning. we would just like to know because nothing could happen or something could happen. And like Nikki was saying, she never got to say goodbye. And like me, Daisy, and Miracle didn't really get to say goodbye either because he wasn't responsive at that point. So she didn't know that was going to happen. Um, but I wish she had shared more of what was happening and like let us in, um, so that we would have been able to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Tosin said too. Just being more open with how you're feeling, what's going on, actually, information. And I think if I was in her shoes, I hope not. I'm thinking about my own family. It's just like, um, I would just, how I'm feeling emotionally too. Every now and then, just check in with the kids more. I would have just tried to check in with my family more often. I feel like my mom is um, she's really strong. She's really strong and she just powers through everything. Like nothing really stops her. She just, like everything is like a speed bump. She just pushes through, like bulldozes over everything. And she doesn't ever stop and like rest, or just, be. And I feel like like if I was in her shoes, I would try to just rest a little bit more and just like tell people how you're feeling. Not everybody, you don't have to tell everybody, but at least those closest to you, like how you're actually feeling. Um, I think it's all of this, like, I guess African culture, I guess in a way too, like, oh, you're the mom, you just have to provide and you have to do this. Cause like I know I'm thinking as a parent, that's a lot of pressure. You just went from having a two-person house, you just went from having someone helping you raise kids to now you don't have anybody but you. Everything's on your shoulders. That's a lot of pressure. And you shouldn't have to shoulder that by yourself. You need people to help you with that. And I feel like my mom is very hyper independent, should we say. So I wish she would just kind of like not be so hyper independent and just be more, interdependent, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, that's
Hmm.
what I would change.
Okay. You already kind of clarified this, but I was going to ask when you said that you think she should share more of how she's feeling with those who are close to her.
Mhm.
I was going to ask, is that more for her or more for you? Do you think that would have helped you to hear that? But then you went on to say that you think it would have helped her because that's a lot of pressure. So I guess I
Yeah.
can still ask the question, like,
Mhm.
was your thought in saying that more so just you think it would help her? You think that she's holding too much in, or do you also think that there's a dual benefit to it as far as you might have benefited from
I
hearing how she
think
was feeling?
now that you said that, it's funny because I think that it would have been beneficial for both of us. It would have been beneficial for me and for her too. Because I think like I'm thinking about because we're all had different age groups. So like I'm in college, I'm obviously adult older, and then I have my sister Miracle. She's 5. She was 5 when my dad passed. So like it's totally different perspectives. I think that if she was a little bit more open, I think that would have been helpful for Miracle to know what feelings to expect or how to go through those motions, instead of just being like, I don't know what's going on. And then it would help me realize like the way I'm feeling is like normal. It's expected to have that because this was like the first real like death in the family that we actually knew. Like our grandparents like passed, but we never met them. So it didn't hit us the same. Like when her mom passed and her dad passed, like my grandparents, she was sad, but we weren't sad because we didn't know them. It wasn't just because we were sad, obviously, but we didn't know any better, because we didn't know them. So this was a little bit different because we actually know the person, like, wow. And so I think maybe she just felt like we were too young to understand, but I wish she would have thought like, no, we still need to know what's going on.
Mhm. And Tose, do you agree as far as it would have been beneficial to hear how your mom was feeling or doing in the moment?
Yeah. Like to when Nikki said that, just to understand that what you're feeling is quote unquote normal or how grief goes. Um, yeah. And
Mhm.
even to her sharing with other people, people can't help you if they don't know what you need. And even with what you're talking about, like how people want to help in different ways and then they want to like force their thing. I know that happens in the first couple of weeks of like a family grieving, but then after that, people are like, all right, well, if they need something, they'll reach out. But my mom is like, hyper independent, so not technically not really the one that's going to reach out. So I feel like if she were to have reached out or okay, whatever, uh, more people would have been able to step up, if that's the right word, or they would have been able to offer something. Because I know some people they've have said that they had wanted to, but didn't
Mm,
know what to. And
mm,
sometimes people just need to be given what it is that you want them to do.
mm, mm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So interesting. It works both ways. Like, yes, sometimes people just need that direction, but obviously, as the person who is being heavily affected by something, it can be very hard to know what you need. So I think sharing how you're feeling, sharing how you're doing is a little bit easier sometimes than sharing what you need. Like when people are like, okay, what do you need? It's like, I really don't know what I need. But I do kind of know what I'm experiencing and how I'm feeling. So maybe people can use that information to determine, okay, it seems like they would benefit from this or that. So yes, I think that it would be great for people who are going through things to share a little bit more. And then the people who are on the outskirts, don't be assuming. Don't be assuming, oh, they'll reach out if they need it. Don't do that. Especially as time passes, because more and more people, less and less people reach out, more people forget, more people move on with their lives. And so, if you're thinking about somebody, if you're wondering how someone's doing, just ask. Just reach out. Let them be the one to ignore you. Don't be offended when they don't reach back out or when they don't respond to your message. At least you know you've asked. And then a few months pass, you think about them, again, reach out again, like, holding that responsibility on both ends, but not putting the pressure on the person grieving to be the one to reach out. But then also recognizing that it could be helpful if they did share things. So I think both exist. So I would just love for whatever category you fall under as you're listening to this podcast, figure out what you can do to help. Um, so thank you both. We talked a lot about pressure as far as, the pressure your mom must have felt without her husband caring for you children. And then I think, Nikki, you touched on a little bit of pressure as like the oldest sibling, kind of helping your younger siblings through that. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. Did you all experience pressure as older siblings, whether it relates to caring for your younger siblings, whether it relates to helping them through their grief, or, making sure they know certain things about your dad that they may not remember or whatever? Like, what was that feeling of pressure like, as the older siblings?
I would say, I think I feel like I'm kind of the one that put pressure on myself, if that makes sense. I think because of how sudden it happened, I was just remembering all the stuff that my dad would say that I didn't do that was wrong, or like what I did was wrong, or what I needed to improve on, or like stuff that I said I would promise I would do and I didn't. And so I was like, oh, I have to fulfill this promise. I have to, my dad, I have to make sure I do it because I told him I would do it, that kind of thing. I know like one big thing in my mind is still in my mind now is like I remember I promised my dad like I would be a doctor. Like I promised him that, because like that was a big thing. We talked about what schoolwork I was gonna go to, like what the plan was and all this stuff. And like so even now it just like in my head, like I wanted to be a doctor. And I'm thinking about it now in my mind, and I'm like, do I actually want to be a doctor? Or am I just doing it just because I think that what would make him proud? That's like one type of pressure, that I would say that I kind of put on myself. Um, I guess another other pressure too is like pressure from the outside because now that like my dad was very big in the church and he was very well known for like church planting and upholding the word and the standard. He was very like, like influential. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean. Um, and I feel like, now that the kids, I feel like we have to live up to that standard too. Because then people would look at us kind of sideways, like, oh, because he passed, like you guys just kind of like fell off on like, you because he passed, like you don't go to church anymore, you don't do this. And I kind of felt that kind of pressure too. Um, I don't really feel pressure about necessarily remembering what he did, but I do remember maybe a couple of years after, um, maybe like 5 or 6 years later, 7 years later, things kind of change. You kind of start learning how to like, move on and stuff. And I remember kind of feeling guilty or like being like, man, we should be honoring him every year, or we should be, we should talk about his memory like every year. And I was like, well, I have to think about that. Is that like, I don't know why, like, I just felt like if we didn't, it'd be dishonoring him in a way, you know what I mean? And like, I need to remember him and all this stuff. And I mean, even now this year, like, I was thinking about it this year, I've lived half my life with my dad and half my life without him. It's kind of crazy to think about it in that way. And so I'm thinking, like, being realistic with myself, like, I'm going to live more of my life not being with my dad than actually being with him. And so it's kind of the pressure of trying to make sure that I remember him in a good way, and not forget him and make sure that my kids remember him too, even if they never met him, and making sure that the siblings also remember him too, like, that he's with us in spirit, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say by pressure.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah. Yeah, you've shared with us the way that pressure showed up for you, which were in a lot of different ways as far as, the things he started, wanting to continue them, as far as the things that you said to him when he was alive and you feeling like you needed to finish them even if things had changed. That is a lot of pressure. And then even now, the pressure of what do we do to remember him? And, what are the things like making sure this and that? Like, yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And it's interesting that you said it's like self-imposed. I think it's emotionally imposed too. Like, I feel like that pressure is very normal to feel. So I don't want you to feel like, man, I'm really just putting it all on myself. Like, it all makes a lot of sense as to why these are thoughts going through your mind. And you're a mom now. And like, that pressure is a whole different pressure that we haven't touched on. But yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, because I'm sure there are people listening who can relate to you in a lot of ways. So yeah. Tosin, anything to add about the pressure that you may have experienced as it relates to your father?
Yeah, my pressure was not that. Um, I did. It just goes to show, like, we all are very different. No, no, we all are different, not very different. We all are different, and we experience things in different ways, even though, like, Nikki's number one, I'm number two, and we grew up in the same household, had very different, feelings about things. After my dad passed away, I didn't feel the pressure to do things I had promised. I don't even think I remembered those things. I felt just the pressure to, like, who's going to go grocery shopping, who's picking up the kids from school, who's going to get the kids ready for school, who's going to negotiate with the lawn mowing people, who's going to put mulch down in the front yard, who's going to paint the bricks. Like, that's what I was thinking about, like the pressure of all the tasks that my dad did. Who is now going to do them, or are we not going to do them? Are we going to get help to do them? And like, that's where my mind was. Um, and that's what was overwhelming to me, because I think I tried to kind of like double time and do everything I was doing and then everything that my dad was doing around the house, which was impossible, because I'm only one person. And that was, yeah, that was a crazy task.
Hmm.
So that's what I really felt. Feeling pressure after that, I think, mm, no, I think, no, it did hit me at the time of my dad passing, that there were stories and like history, genealogy that my dad knew that I had not memorized, or that like, well, I, I that I just didn't know, and wishing that I had memorized it and being like, can I do that? Is there a way to get that done? I felt that, and that kind of like ebbed and flowed for every now and then for several months, for a couple of weeks. yeah, as the years went on, just going back forth, thinking about like the knowledge that's now gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things. If it dies with your dad, then it's like there's nothing you can do about it. And that is a horrible feeling. And so, yeah, I think it's good to, I guess, think about that going forward and how intentional we're being about sharing stories and writing things down. Nikki writes everything down. Look, your kids will be able to look through those journals and be like, man, we know exactly what, what mom was feeling, which could be, scary or could be really great. So either way, that's very real. So thank you for sharing about your pressures, Tosin. And I guess my next question is like your grief, it's been what, 15, over 15,
It's it'll be 17 years this year.
17 years this year.
Hmm.
So, um, if you had to like, I guess I'm asking like how your grief shows up today in 2025 versus, 2008, 2015, 2020, now 2025. Nikki, you told us a little bit about how like, you went through some time blocking into college and then things were hitting you and then when you had kids or whatever. But if there's anything you haven't shared, just would love to know like how your grief shows up today versus back then.
That's a good question. I feel like I don't know. I feel like for me personally, I guess since getting married and having these like having kids, like all these life events, that's what triggers like the memories and the kind of the sadness and the happiness and all the feelings. I feel like for me that's what like triggers it. So like it can be the most random event possible. Like it'll just be super random. I can't even pinpoint. I mean, then obviously the major like birth of my kids, obviously one, getting married one, but even though just like being at the house with my mom and everybody and just being like, wow, like I wonder what it'd be like if my dad was here. It just pops in my head every now and then. Um, it used to pop in my head a lot after, but and not so much after a while. Like it didn't even really pop into my head. But now since I've had kids, I noticed that pops in my head a lot more. Yeah.
Thank you. Jose?
Yeah, for me, I think it also shows up with my niece and nephew and talking to them and asking questions. So they'll be like, yes, grandma. So grandma A is doing this, blah, 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 blah. Well, what about grandpa? Oh, okay. So then grandma, and they'll continue with a different sentence. And so just hearing that, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys don't have a grandpa A as well. Um, uh, so those moments remind me. And then another times, um, I will have dreams of my dad. And sometimes the dream is just like we're at the house and there's a party. Well, sorry, not that kind of party, just a gathering. Um, and sorry, I had to clarify. And there's a gathering, and my dad is just one of the attendants, and I'm seeing that. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, my dad. But then there's another time that I'll have a dream and like my dad is like saying something like really sweet to me, and then I'll wake up just crying because I miss my dad. Um, I feel like that's how my grief has been showing up lately. Yeah.
As a follow-up, how do you when the grief shows up, um, what do you do with the grief?
I mean, if I wake up crying, then I'm like, yeah, I miss my dad because that was beautiful. And that is something that he would say. And then I remember like a moment that like actually did happen. And I just kind of like said, like, I have that good memory. And I just kind of like wade in the water there for a second
Mhm.
and then kind of like just let it go. And like, don't hold on to the memory. You just kind of like are thinking of nothing, and then it's time to get out of bed.
Now it's time to get out of what?
Out of bed?
Out of bed. All right, time
Um,
to go brush my teeth.
I mean, but it is though. Uh,
Yeah.
because I know that like, that's just what happens.
Hmm.
And this time I just happened when I was sleeping. I know in the past, whenever grief just happens, it'll happen like, while you're awake, you see something and it reminds you of of my dad, or you smell something, or like someone made his favorite food, or et cetera, et cetera. But now
Hmm.
it's just like, okay, this happened when I was sleeping. Let me just, appreciate it. I do have this memory. And then let's keep on going.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like you both allow space for it and then move through it. And I know that a lot of people talk about grief and they're like, the only way to move or get over it is to move through it. I don't think there is any getting over grief, but I do see the act of like moving through it, allowing it to or not overtake you, but allowing yourself to experience what comes and then allow yourself to continue with life. And I've seen that in my experience as well, where there's a transition from when the grief hits you, can't do anything else, and it destroys the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and then, moving to a time where it exists with the rest of your life and you just kind of like figure out how to make it work. So, yeah, it sounds like both of y'all have also experienced that. And yeah, with anyone who's listening, you get to this point where you and the grief you're just there living life. It's one and the same. So it's very interesting. Well, I met your dad, can't remember full memories of meeting him or how he was and things like that with like Nana Camp or whatever, but I know that he was influential, like you said, Nikki, and I would love to hear some stories and memories. So I was just going to ask if if there's anything in particular that you'd like to share about your dad, personality wise, stories wise, just, something you remember about him that our listeners can hold on to so they can know a little bit about who he was.
Oh, I don't know. There's so many stories. There's so many thoughts. I would say, like, even like people would think that my dad was very intimidating, like he's kind of scary, which yes, he could be. But honestly, he was like a big teddy bear. Honestly, when you get to know him, he was super nice, super kind. Yes, he was very strict, but he was very what's the word I'm looking for? Like disciplined, and he was very big on like having a structure and just having a plan. You know, he just it's like he brought like structure to our family. I could just say that. Like um, when I remember growing up, like we'd always know it's time to go to like he always have family dinner. We always sit at the table. Um, we would always watch the 10 o'clock news before we go to sleep. We'd always have to pray before we go to sleep. Um, you can watch almost whatever show you wanted to, but you gotta watch the 10 o'clock news, or else, yeah, you can be on the computer, but you gotta watch 10 o'clock news. And that was a sign after 10 o'clock news, everything better be off. You go into your room, like that's the end of the night, like lights out. Oh, uh, and I just know like he was very random. He was very random. He was just very very random. Like I remember, like he didn't. I don't remember him like kissing or hugging my mom, like showing like that to my mom that often. But he would just do it randomly, and he'll say the most random stuff like, "Oh, I love you about your mom. Like I love Caesar's pizza." You're like, "What? Where are you getting this from? Like, what is going on?" But yeah, I just know like he was just a really cool person to be around. He got all the funny stories. Um, you could be with him for hours, and he's just like a really fun person to be around.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Nikki. When you first started talking about how he like brought structure and was organized and stuff, I was thinking about our dear Tosin. I'm like, so that's where she gets it from. Aw. All right, Toast. What do you have to share about your dad with us?
Yeah, the structure is definitely where I get it from. Because I mean, Nikki just stopped at the 10 o'clock news, but there's evening devotion, there's 10 o'clock news, there's morning devotion, there's also our Saturday schedule, um, there is the after school schedule. So none of these were necessarily written down, but you knew it was going to happen because my dad was just so consistent in what he expected and what we did each time. Um, what I was going to share is that um, the reason earlier I brought up that I touched my dad's hand and it was cold is because, as Nikki was saying, my daddy was like a huge teddy bear. So we would go grocery shopping together. I would make the grocery list at home. He would like come back from work. We'd go grocery shopping, and then we would hold hands as we were walking into the store. And I was like, this is very nice. And then we, get our groceries. And one of the groceries that we always got were chocolate chip cookies, and that is where I got my love of cookies from. He was the original Cookie Monster. Oh, hold on.
She started sounding like the Cookie Monster for a
I know,
second
right?
there.
It was coming through. I had to clear my throat.
Okay, Oscar.
And he definitely passed that on to me just for the love of cookies, not necessarily the rest of the sweets. It's just cookies in particular. My dad was also very frugal. I'll use the word frugal and not cheap. I remember there was this shirt. I don't know. My cousin would know the exact price because I think it was him, and my cousin, that went shopping to either like Marshalls or Ross, and he got this like button-down dress shirt for either 199 or 129. And he was so proud of himself that every time he put it on, he would mention it, and my cousin would be like, "Oh my gosh, like Nikki's dad, like please."
I think the show
Um,
was 50 cents, if
oh, it
I'm
was
not
50
mistaken.
cents?
Yes, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken. It was
yeah.
less than $1. I just know that.
Oh, it was less than $1. She got something I think that was more than okay. Yeah, he was very, very proud of this.
As
Um,
he should have been. Like, oh, me and your dad would have kiki because Marshalls less than $1?
yeah. Are you about to tell the story of the morning, Nikki,
What money?
of us standing in line? Is that what you're thinking
Yes,
about?
I was about to
Okay, go
say that. I
ahead.
was about to say that.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I totally forgot about this. It just busted in my head. My dad was very big on raffles. Like any kind of raffle ticket, raffle this, anything. He was very big on it. I vividly remember on Black Fridays, my dad would be the main one getting us out of the house because we're gonna have to get the free TV. Like he would be the one like standing in line with us. I vividly remember one Thanksgiving, Black Friday. It was raining. It was cold. My dad got us up. It was like 3:30 in the morning. No, we're supposed to leave at 3:30 in the morning, but because he was tired, we're all tired. But we ended up leaving at like 5:30. And I remember it was like a opening for 99 cent store, and it was like the first nine people got a free TV, and then the first 99 people got like a free scooter. And so my dad was like, "We need to be in line. Okay, we need to be in line for this." And he's like, "I need to get this TV." Why do we need TV? I don't know, because we already had TVs. You know what I mean? Like this is like, why are we doing this? And so he's like rushing us on the highway, trying to get there on time. We pull up, we get in line, and we're like number what, 78 or something. It's like 70-ish. And then my dad was like, "You see, because we didn't leave the house on time. That's why we are late. Because we gotta cut the TV. But no, 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 you guys want to waste time." Da 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 da. We're like, dude, like it's Thanksgiving. Like, what? Like, really? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. So we're literally outside waiting for hours until they finally open the door. And we get the free scooter. And then we have to go, go inside, get some stuff. And I remember bringing the scooter back home. And he's like, "Can you imagine? They didn't even put it together for us. They just gave it to us in a box. And we have to fix it ourselves? What is this?" And I'm like, "You're the one that stood in line for a free scooter. Like, this, this is not our fault."
Yeah, I
That goes
remember.
back to,
Oh, go ahead,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go. No, no, you go.
While we were waiting in line, he was complaining that it's because we didn't wake up on time. I was like, these people who are in the front, we're number 70 something. It's like 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't think that they came here at 3 o'clock, Dad. Like, I think they came here before. So he investigated while we were in line. Um, he investigated and he found out that they had come like I think Thanksgiving Day, maybe around noon. Like that's when they started in line. And so then he was like, "Well, I guess we wouldn't have God's, you know." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, exactly."
Oh my gosh.
So like we would not have got the TV done. Like it's okay.
Okay. They say your plan would have never worked. Okay. That is hilarious. Like you when you were talking about how he was talking in line and then we came home and started talking again, like it goes back to what you were saying about he would love to rant about things. So I started thinking about that. And then this explains why Deji and Miracle were in line at the edible arrangement store, wherever it was, nothing but cakes and all the little I'm like, this is a family legacy y'all are keeping up with right now. Like, so I'm not gonna throw any shade. And
That's
y'all
our
got
family legacy.
one of. I take it
Standing
back.
in line at nothing but cakes is our
I take it
family
back.
legacy.
I take it back. Tosi said, where did I go wrong? I take it back. I take it back. Anyway, those stories are wonderful. And I feel like I got a little glimpse of type of person your dad was, type of energy he brought to the family, the space. So thank you so much for sharing. Um, if okay, well, we're gonna take a little bit of a turn here. Hopefully it doesn't. Anyway, I know neither of y'all got to say goodbye to your dad, right? So, um, you know, I guess imagine it's that day, or even it could be today. If there was one thing you could say to your dad right now, or if there was one thing you could have said to him before he passed, what would it be? One thing, a few things. You don't have to put a limit on it.
So at our weight keeping, one of her aunts, she had actually gone around to all four of us and asked about our last experience with our dad. And in each one of our experiences, our dad had like said a goodbye to us, although like the four of us didn't know that about each other's experience. Kind of like how I said that morning, I was like, "I'll see you later, Dad." And he's like, "Goodbye." And we all know he doesn't say goodbye. Um, he did similar things to Miracle Daisy and Nikki. And so thinking now, like, what would I want? I kind of think I don't know that I would say anything more. If I had like more moments with him in his final moments, I think it would have just been like a silent sitting together because I don't know that there would be more than I'd want to say to him. Um, yeah, 'cause I think I said it all.
Okay. Maybe y'all would have just been sitting in silence and you would have been holding his hand or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Nikki?
Oh, that's a good question. I never thought about that. Um, I don't know. I feel like I would say if I knew it was gonna happen, like more like just like, like thanks, Dad, like all the hard work that you did, like, it's not forgotten, like, all the stuff that you said, like we remembered it, all the history lessons and all that stuff. Like it doesn't go over our head, but I remembered it, that kind of thing. And like you don't have to worry about us, like we'll be okay. I think that's what I would have said. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you
what.
both. Well, is there anything that I have not asked you all that you want to share?
Oh, I know this is super random. It's probably like more official, but I would say if you don't have a will, please get a will. I know it's really random, but I remembered like that cost my mom a lot of stress trying to figure out because my dad did not have a will when he passed because it was so sudden. Um, and unfortunately, he didn't have very nice family members, so that made it a little bit more rough too. And so my mom having to, go back and forth and find this document and find that document and get this proof. I mean, that's a lot of stress and already stressful time. So if you don't have a will, write a will. I know it sounds weird saying that we're young, but you can always change it. You can always like change it every 5 years. You forget, hey, let me add something in there, and at least you have something to go off of. And
Mm,
obviously, get life insurance too, because it also helps too, with like funerals and stuff. Um,
mhm.
I didn't really realize how much they cost, um, but those the kind of things that we just kind of don't think about. We have to remember to like kind of do those things. And then I would just say like I know like me personally, I'm always worried about someone leaving or someone, you know, not being around, that kind of thing. So I have to like kind of have a balance of things. Like one, not be so hyper focused on
Right.
like, oh, they could leave any moment, like, oh, like be scared, and but also like enjoy people while they're there, you know, and just enjoy the moment and live it up, and just don't take everybody or everything for granted. Like, just never know. So you just have to like enjoy the moment, enjoy the time, enjoy the space. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you, Nikki. Very practical. I love that. People definitely need to hear that, so thank you. Well, this podcast is called There's Grace for That. And so I wanted to close with asking you both what's something you're proud of yourself for? It can be related to grief, or it can just be what are you proud of yourself for these days?
I think I'm proud of myself about how emotionally mature I've become. I know it's kind of random, but I just think like I didn't realize I was like I didn't realize I was so emotionally driven sometimes. Like, but I started to realize that as I was like in college and stuff, and I've learned how to tamper myself a little bit better, and I've also like I feel like I've learned how to. I mean, I can still work on it, but just expressing myself verbally better. It's still a work in progress, but I'm happy with how far I've come.
I know that's right. And that is not random. And that is a big accomplishment. Yeah, so shout out to you, Boo.
Thank
Tosin, what's something you're proud of yourself for?
So I would say it's the inverse of what Nikki said, is that I am more a thinking person. So whenever I do feel things, I know, well, yeah, going way far back, I tend to kind of just like make a reason why that feeling is not valid, or why I shouldn't feel that way. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna feel that way. And then I just continue on. So more recently, I have been validating, well, as time's gone on, I've been validating myself, validating my emotions and how I've been feeling. And something recently happened, and I validated my anger, which is like, I mean, they're validating sadness. I'm like, okay, validating happiness, whatever. Validating anger, I'm like, eh. So I validated my anger, and I don't usually do that, and that I'm proud of myself for doing that. Yeah.
I'm absolutely proud of you for doing that as well. Um, yeah, validating anger can be hard, especially if you feel like um the anger is I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of reasons that people give us to like why we shouldn't be angry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kidding. Anyway, love that. How can we support you all individually? You know, if somebody listening here could do something to make you feel supported, like what would that be? And Nikki in this view button, man, like throw the phone away, man.
There it goes. There it goes. You can help by upgrading my phone. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. um, honestly, like, what's the word? Of course, we know prayer is always good for everybody, but in general, just living life, I guess. I wish everybody, honestly, in my little world in my head, I wish everybody got along and everybody was always happy. But I know that's not like real life, but I just wish everybody would be more graceful for people and different personalities. I feel like people are very harsh sometimes, and they don't realize like everybody's a little different, and just to give more grace to people. So that's what I would say.
I love that. We can support you by having more grace for each other
Yes.
in our lives. Okay. Tosin, how can we support you?
Well, I mean, I was gonna say that like we just had an experience where a lot of our friends and community were supporting us in many different ways. So I feel like my cup is pretty full, so it's kind of difficult to say
Mhm.
what I need at the moment. Um, but I know something that people have been doing is just reaching out and checking on me and my siblings. And uh, I mean, yes, that's true for me, but I think we've said it already. But just like if you think of someone, just, send them a text. You don't know why they came to your mind. Maybe they need to hear from someone. Maybe they need a message. Maybe I need a message. Um, and I really need you to send it to me. So if you're thinking of calling, please call. Thinking of texting, please text. If you want to send some, go ahead and send some. Yeah. Um, yeah, all gifts are welcome. Um, and I also want to say I appreciate how everyone has supported me and my family thus far as well.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much. Well, y'all heard it here first. So this is how you can support the family. So let's do it. Well, we've come to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for your time, the both of you. I think this was really insightful, informative, and it was a great time for me. I hope y'all feel the same. And I end every episode with us reminding people who are going through grief, who are going through trauma, who are going through tough times in their lives, that there's grace for that. So I'm going to just have y'all unmute and say there's grace for that. And then, we just going to see how that goes. Okay. Unless, Tosin, you have a better suggestion of what you
Well,
do.
let's try that, and then we might need to try it us saying it individually, and then yeah,
Got you.
yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. There's
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 grace for
grace
grace
that.
for
for
that.
that.
Love y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the There's Grace for That podcast. I hope you felt seen, heard, inspired, or encouraged as you listened, and I hope you'll tune into the next one. For now, we're on Instagram at There's Grace for _that. So would love if you would give us a follow and click the link tree in our bio if you want to share any feedback or if you'd like to support the podcast financially, which is by no means expected, but always appreciated. Remember, this is a group effort and I welcome your input with open arms. And lastly, for today's homework, think of a friend, family member, or even someone you know distantly who could use a check-in. Reach out to them sometime in the next few days to let them know you're thinking of them. Feel free to comment on Spotify, YouTube, or IG when you complete it. And of course, if you feel led, please share this episode with someone you think would benefit. Again, thank you so much. And until next time.